to meet, learn, and grow. As we begin our forum, we dedicate this time to you. We pray for the presenters, attendees, and volunteers who made this forum. Your word says in Colossians 3:17, word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Thank you for blessing our time together. Help us make new connections and gain wisdom to do the work you've set before us. We give you honor and glory. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Also, at this time, I'm going to call up Commissioner Mark Petrowski, who will lead us in the pledge. Commissioner, thank you. Thank you so much. Now we have a special surprise. I'm going to call up Representative Tim Kelly. Oh.
Thank you. Well, it's my distinct pleasure to, we have a special award tonight for a longtime friend and service to Saginaw County Republican Party, Senator Roger Kahn, for a Lifetime Achievement Award. But before he gets up, I just want to share a quick story for him. I'm here in a lot of ways because of Roger. If Roger wouldn't have kind of changed what he was doing back in the aughts, the 2000 aughts, I may not have been here. So he helped at least accelerate my arrival in Lansing. So for that, I'm very happy. But the quick story, my wife Dean and I took care of his dog Foxy for about a month one time. And in appreciation, when he got back, I don't know how he thought how to thank us or anything. So he offloaded a lot of things that he acquired over it through GOP auctions and things like that. Pictures and statues that decorate my current office today. So without him, I wouldn't necessarily be in office, nor would I have the decorations to accompany that. But anyway, Roger, why don't you please come up here? This is an appreciation of your dedication and service presented to Roger Kahn, a state senator, state representative, city commissioner, everything you've done. So thank you so much. Please. And we also have parting gifts for you as well. Yeah. I'll carry booze, which I don't think you drink, though. Yeah. I swear.
Well, to say that this was unexpected is a vast understatement. It certainly is incredibly unexpected, and I'm grateful. And I'm grateful to our party, and I'm grateful in particular to our country, and that our party has always understood that we have a country. And lastly, the rest of the story on my dog Foxy is that we came back from vacation, and Tim and Deanie brought Foxy over to the house, and we said hellos and parties a little bit. And then they got up to leave, and Foxy got up to go with them. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, she did. No, I have not. So we don't board our dog with friends anymore. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roger. You can't stay there. Yep. Thanks, everyone. Now I'd like to take this opportunity for a huge thank you for all our generous sponsors. Perry Johnson for governor, Mike Cox for governor, Tom Leonard for governor, Ralph Rebant for governor, Doug Lloyd for attorney general, Representative Tim Kelly, Representative Matthew Bierlein, and Gabe Lossing for Senate. Also Lena Epstein for U of M Board of Regents. And I'm going to turn it over to, we just want to really thank Representative Bill G. Schuette for helping us out. He's the MC for the evening. And so, come on up, sir. Thanks, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. I am the MC for this evening, and I understand my responsibility is to keep things moving along. So rest assured, I will adhere to that duty. But I first am understanding that being in Saginaw, you're no stranger to the Schuette family. I am contractually obligated to provide the Schuette family update. Normally the other guy named Bill Schuette, as I call him Dad, is the one who provides that update. But he can't be here tonight because my sister Heidi just gave birth to my nephew, her son, Alden John Sherry. So 6 pounds, 10 ounces. So if you see, next time you see Cynthia and my mother Cynthia and my father Bill, let them know congratulations on being a grandparent. So it's great. And I also would like to recognize some of the elected officials and candidates that we have in the audience tonight. We have, of course, our candidates for governor, Perry Johnson. We have Tom Leonard. We have Eric Nesbitt. We have Ralph Rebrandt. We have our esteemed honoree Senator Dr. Roger Kahn, and my colleagues in the State House, Representative Tim Kelly and Representative Matthew Bierlein. And we have we have Commissioner Mark Petrowski, and we have Amir Hassan, 8th District Congressional candidate. Doug Lloyd, running for Michigan's Attorney General. Amanda Love, running for Secretary of State. Jason Tunney, who you'll hear from in just 1 second, running for the 35th State Senate District. Gabriel Lossing, running for the 26th Senate District. And James Asher, who will be our from Americans for Prosperity, who will be our keynote speaker this evening. But as I provide just a quick overview of what I think this evening is about, I think it comes down to 3 things. First, you know, my colleagues in the State House, Matthew Bierlein, Tim Kelly, and myself, we're fighting for you. We just proposed a plan to provide billions in property tax cuts. Could people in the state of Michigan use billions in property tax cuts? And combined with that, more than $1 billion in rate reductions from the utilities. I think those are 2 things that Michiganders really could use right now. But we need help. We need help because when we just have the House of Republicans, we are outmanned by the Democrats in Lansing. And that's why we're here tonight, right? We're going to hear from some of our candidates for governor that can help provide that executive leadership we need to get our state back on track. And did you all know that the control of the state Senate comes down to Saginaw, Midland, and Bay counties? Yeah, it's a big deal. On May 5th, we have an opportunity to tie our state Senate, bring it to a 19-19 tie, and we are now going to hear from the man who's going to do just that, the next state senator for Midland, Bay, and Saginaw counties, Jason Tunney.
All right, thank you to my good friend Bill Schuette for that great introduction. So I'll keep it brief because obviously I am not the main event tonight. 426 days. That's how long the people of the 35th District, most of Midland, most of Bay, and most of Saginaw, have been without a state senator. 2 State of the State addresses and 1 budget process. You want to talk about an abuse of executive authority? The grossest abuse of executive authority in the history of the state of Michigan committed by Gretchen Whitmer. It is unconscionable, but we can remedy that on May 5th. So what I need you to do is time, talent, treasure, dedication, hard work. Go to teamtunney.com, Tunney for Senate. right? Check us out. Door knockers, send up door knockers, postcards, $5 contributions, anything you can do, because we are going to tie this up in the state Senate on May 5th. And that is it. Thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate it.
Part of the fun of being the MC is you get to pivot when you realize your original sheet of paper has some additional names you need to recognize. We have Briar Bears, a candidate for State House, who's here. And we have a Wayne State Governor and Vice Chair of the Michigan Republican Party, or Co-Chair of the Michigan Republican Party, Sonny Reddy. So thank you both for being here as well. And now we are going to hear from James Asher from Americans for Prosperity. Americans for Prosperity is one of the leading important grassroots groups that we have to make sure that we get our message out and get our voters to the polls. So, James, we look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Thank you, Representative. All right. I first just want to say thank you guys for having me. This is my first time in Saginaw. It's been a pleasure, and all the people so far have been so lovely. I have to say, as I was traveling over here, those roads are not fixed at all. I have to say, I think that it might be safer just to take a plane back, and we might have some less auto expenses. All right. So first, I just want to say that also, it is so important that we get Jason elected to the state Senate. With Americans for Prosperity, all across the state, and in Kalamazoo, for example, next week, we're having a phone bank, and it's super exciting. We're super excited to support his candidacy and to make sure that he gets across the finish line so we can get back our state Senate. It's so crucial. And so again, I want to first start by thanking the Saginaw Republican Party for putting this on and for the great candidates we have running for governor. We are so lucky to have such a strong bench. And tonight, before I get into the issues facing our state, I want to briefly introduce myself. My name is James Asher. I was born and raised in Kalamazoo. And for those who don't know my story, my path here was not quite traditional. Growing up, me and my brothers faced quite significant challenges. Times got tough. We were briefly put in foster care, and when I was growing up, as a kid, that was a very confusing time. But looking back, it also reminds me how fortunate I am to live in a country where second chances are real. In reflection, I think about how my community was there at so many different points. And there are genuinely good people out there, and that good inspires me today. In second grade, my aunt and great uncle took me in and eventually adopted me. And that moment changed my life forever. I went from James Cook to James Asher. And with that came a family, stability, and the opportunity. I went from ramen packs to eating dinner at a table. And let me tell you, that is life-changing. My interest in public service started pretty early. My family was at Ostramo Fun Day, and we met Brant Iden, who gave me a pocket constitution. I was the kid that would carry it around school. Trust me, my teachers loved me. I carried that thing everywhere. It's because the freedoms we enjoy in this country only survive if people are willing to stand up and defend them. Since sixth grade, I've had the privilege of working on campaigns across the state. Starting a small business in high school to help Republicans throughout the country get elected. And now I'm proud to be working with Americans Prosperity to help mobilize our grassroots. To put it simply, I know life isn't always easy. My childhood is a testament of that. But my growth is also a testament of what happens with the power of faith, community, and a strong family. I am dedicated to bringing this same success story to other kids in making Michigan better than I found it. And that brings me to why tonight's conversation matters so much. Tonight, we gather in a state that once defined American strength. Michigan built the middle class. Michigan empowered the arsenal of democracy. Michigan proved that when Americans combine ingenuity with hard work, there is no challenge we cannot overcome. But let's be honest, the Michigan we inherited and the Michigan we see today are not the same. Families are paying more for everything. Young people are leaving because opportunity feels easier somewhere else. Businesses that once built entire communities are struggling under the weight of taxes, regulations, and policies written by people who have never had to meet a payroll. The frustration people feel right now is real, and my friends, it is justified. But frustration alone does not fix its state. leadership does. And that word leadership has never mattered more than it does now. And you know, leadership over this past week has been coming up a lot in my thoughts. Our nation has once again been reminded of the cost of defending freedom. If we could please take a moment to rise and recognize the 6 members of our great military that lost their lives defending our nation, and please, we'll take a moment of silence to remember them. Thank you. Brave Americans in uniform gave their lives confronting the Iranian regime and terror it sponsors around the world. Tonight, we remember them, we pray for their families, and we thank every man and woman who puts on the uniform of this country, knowing the risks that come with it. This all reminds us of something so important. Peace is not maintained by speeches. Strength is not demonstrated through press conferences. Peace is not even sometimes kept through diplomacy. Security does not come from hoping our enemies behave differently tomorrow than they did yesterday. Peace is secured when the United States has the courage to act and the strength to back it up. That is what real leadership looks like. It is not noise, it is not posturing, it is a decision. It is a responsibility. It is the willingness to act when others hesitate. And the same truth applies here at home. Michigan does not need more political theater. Michigan needs leadership that produces results. People in this state are tired of hearing promises that disappear after Election Day. They are tired of politicians who campaign as outsiders and then govern as bureaucrats. They are tired of leaders who seem more interested in press coverage than in solving actual problems. The citizens of this great state are not asking for miracles, my friends. They're asking for competence. They're asking for honesty. They're asking for leaders who understand what everyday life actually looks like outside of Lansing. They want roads that are fixed without raising their taxes. They want schools that prepare students for real careers instead of ideological experiments. They want neighborhoods where families feel safe raising their children. They are not radical expectations. These are the basic responsibilities of government. And if the government cannot deliver those things, then it has failed at its most fundamental duty. The encouraging thing is that the Republican Party is not short on leadership. Some of you support the combat veteran and entrepreneur who has taken his fight from conservative principles from battlefield to Washington. Some of you support the genius whose leadership helped revive one of Michigan's most important industries. Or the 6th-generation dairy and grape farmer who rose to lead the Republicans in the Michigan Senate. Some are behind the pragmatic family man who led the House of Representatives and who understands how government works. Others are inspired by the pastors whose faith and convictions have motivated thousands and thousands across the state. And some are behind the former Marine and Attorney General who spent years defending the rule of law and protecting Michigan families. Each of these fine people brings different experiences, different talents, and different ideas to the table. That is exactly what primaries are supposed to do. They allow the party to debate ideas, challenge assumptions, and present voters with real choices. But when the voters have made that choice, something equally important has to happen. Unity. Because, friends, these primaries are contests. But, my friends, the general election is the mission. Because the real challenge is not any Republican that's next to you. The real challenge is the direction our state has been heading for too long. You know, I read yesterday that more than a quarter of young adults in Michigan are expected to leave the state within the next decade. A quarter. We cannot afford another decade where talent is leaving Michigan because opportunity is easier to find somewhere else. We cannot afford another decade where businesses are choosing states because they are tired of being treated like the enemy. And we certainly cannot afford another decade where political leaders in Lansing seem to forget who they are actually working for. You see, Michigan used to be a national leader in public education. Today, our students are falling behind. According to the National Association of Educational Progress, Michigan now ranks 44th in the country for 4th grade reading. 24% are proficient in math in 8th grade. Nearly 43% of Michigan 8th graders scored below the basic level in math, meaning they are struggling with even the fundamental concepts. And despite billions of dollars being poured into the education system over the past decade, national test scores in Michigan have remained stagnant. I want to take a moment. When I first got involved in politics in 6th grade, the state budget was at like $58 billion. And even then, everyone was like, that's huge and crazy, and it was. We're just passing $80 billion, and no one's blinking an eye, except our House Republicans. This is why it is so crucial that we get Jason in the state Senate, because we can stop Gretchen Whitmer's radical agenda. And you have heard it once before, and I... You have heard it once before, and I know you will hear it again. But this is why this election is so important. This is our chance to rewrite the wrong, correct the past, and rein in the government. Let's be honest, more government will not solve any of those problems I just described. Less government will. Which brings me to my ending thoughts, and you guys can applaud if you'd like for that. I thought that was funny. Winning an election is not the finish line. It is the starting line. If we want real change in Michigan, 3 things have to happen. These are my opinions, but I strongly recommend them. First, it starts with caring. We must demand candidates that are genuine. Authenticity matters today more than ever before. Voters have developed a pretty good, distinct skill for detecting what is real and what is scripted. The days of carefully manufactured politicians are coming to an end. People want leaders who speak plainly, who stand by their convictions, and who do not change their values depending on the audience. Have you ever met a candidate and been like, wow, that person's they're not really being that, they're kind of fake? We don't need those candidates. Those candidates are not electable. Second, we need leaders who come to Lansing with a serious plan to fix Michigan's economy. Not slogans, not talking points, real solutions grounded in reality. Right now, again, Michigan is ranking near the bottom nationally in population growth because too many young people are leaving. Our state also ranks in the bottom half of the country for business tax competitiveness. And while other states are attracting new industries, Michigan's labor force participation rate remains below the national average, meaning fewer people are working than who are entering the workforce. This is not a formula for success. And third, we must restore accountability. Too often, voters treat Election Day as the end of their involvement in government. In reality, this should be the beginning. Electing anyone into office does not mean our responsibility is finished. It means we have the duty to make sure the people we send to Lansing and to Congress actually follow through. A couple of days ago, I was watching an interview and a Congress member was asked, what do you think your constituents would think if they knew you voted this way or you were saying this? And this person's response was, my constituents aren't in D.C. That mindset has to go. That requires citizens who are engaged, citizens who ask hard questions, citizens who volunteer with AFP Michigan, citizens who remind their elected officials that public office is a position of trust, not entitlement. Because when people stay involved, the government stays grounded. So, the future of Michigan will not be decided by a single speech, a single debate, or even an election. It will be decided by whether the people in this room and the citizens across the state choose to step forward and take responsibility for the direction of their government. Michigan has the talent. Michigan has the resources. Michigan has the history of innovation and perseverance that built one of the greatest economies in the world. What we need now is genuine, bold leadership to unlock that potential again. If we do that, if we stay focused on the issues that matter to the people that we serve, there is no reason Michigan cannot lead this great country once again. Thank you for having me again tonight. Ever since being here, it's just been a great time. I can't wait to mingle and meet all of you guys after this. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
All right, and now it is time for the main event. It is our gubernatorial forum. I'm going to introduce our candidates. They're going to come up on stage, and then I will turn it over to our moderator for the evening. So joining us at our Saginaw GOP gubernatorial forum, we have Pastor Ralph Rebrand. Ralph, please come on up. We have Republican Senate Minority Leader Eric Nesbitt. Eric, come on up. And former Republican Speaker of the House, Tom Leonard. And businessman and author, Perry Johnson. Perry, come on up. And I am going to turn it over to our moderator for the evening. So I'm not sure how many of you saw Gretchen Whitmer's big news a couple of weeks ago that she started a Substack. It's kind of an online blog publication. Well, she's a little bit late to the game because Dave Bondi, our moderator for this evening, I suggest you go check it out. Has a great Substack, Keeping It Real. And he's going to do a great job moderating this event this evening. So, Dave, take it away.
I actually have more followers than Governor Whitmer, and I actually have more followers than her on TikTok, surprisingly. Wow. We're going back and forth. I'm streaming right now on Substack, so if any of you know of that publication, it's a great place because they believe in free speech, unlike some of the other social platforms that we all know too well. Okay, it's good to see all of you here. My name is Dave Bondi. I used to work in the legacy media. I walked away shortly after COVID. My eyes were open to a lot of different things, and I'm so happy with what I'm doing now. Independent journalist. I also work for the Mackinac Center, helping them with social and digital. So tonight we're going to have a 2-minute opening statement for every one of you, and then the questions will be also a 2-minute response. And our timekeepers, raise your hands right in the front right here. I've been told to be very strict when it comes to the time. So, okay, yes. So you'll have a 2-minute opening statement, and then for a question you'll have 2 minutes to answer, and then you'll be given a 30, 15, and then 0. And then at the end, and if 1-minute rebuttal, if one of you were to mention another one of your competitors in a nice way, I'm sure, you can offer your rebuttal. You'll have 1 minute, and at the end, a 2-minute closing remark. So let's start. Let's get there right away. Perry Johnson, and I'm going to rotate every time the round. A new person will get the first question. Okay, Mr. Johnson, how will you address the shortage of affordable housing in the state? And, sorry, there we go. I was ready to get into the question. Opening statement, sir.
Isn't it nice that he allowed me to go? Am I on? Can you hear me? Okay. Well, I'm Perry Johnson, and I'm running for governor. And maybe you've seen one of my commercials. I will tell you that I got my start in the auto industry. It was at a time when the auto industry was in trouble. I had this job with Borg Warner, and my client was Ford Motor Company. The Japanese had come in with tremendous quality, and they were killing us. They had a better car for less money. And the interesting thing is that I noticed that at the end of the line, they had these inspectors who were inspecting the product, and if it wasn't any good, they would either throw it out or rework it. And I knew that wasn't going to work. And I thought I knew how to solve the problem. My background was mathematics, and I started in the beginning of the operation. I introduced statistical process control. We called it SPC, so that people didn't stutter. And the line workers, with all their knowledge, were able to iron out variation, and we didn't need inspectors anymore. In 4 or 5 years, we had the best quality in the world. And then I wrote a book on ISO 9000, the quality standard. Because I said, why not quality as a way of life? And it took off like hotcakes. And I became the quality efficiency expert in the world. And we operate in literally 67 countries around the world. And I've spent my entire life bringing quality and efficiency to companies, and now I want to bring it to our state government. Because our government throws away money, and I say we stop that. I want to stop throwing away the money. I want to audit every dime, and I want to eliminate the income tax and reform our property tax. What do you say we give the money back to the people? And if we do that, it's $4,747 every single year to a typical family in the state of Michigan. And with that money, can we do something? It starts with the fact that you have to eliminate the expenses. I say we get rid of rich and spendthrift ways. Who's in favor of that? And who's in favor of not throwing away literally $11 billion in 1 year in overpayments of unemployment and Medicaid?
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Leonard, your opening statement. Okay, let's be calm until
These
the
are
very
just
end.
my supporters. I don't think I paid them off.
You're bringing life. I like it.
Mr.
No,
Leonard.
I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. Tom Leonard, and anytime I'm in this area or this district, it feels like being back home. I grew up just 30 minutes south of here. The first job I had out of law school was being a prosecutor in Flint and Genesee County. And I tell people, even when I'm the state's next governor, it's still going to be the greatest job that I ever had. And I'm often asked the question, why are we? And I say we because this is a team effort, and I have the most incredible political spouse that anybody could ever have with Janelle sitting there. And why are we doing this? When you look at the state of our state right now, and I know that James mentioned many of these statistics, the fact that we are bottom 5 in our unemployment rate right now, bottom 10 for income growth, a quarter of our population suffers from some type of mental health issue, and half of them are not getting treatment. 10% of our teenagers at some point in the last 2 years have tried committing suicide. But I think the most staggering statistic is the fact that the only state that we, Michigan, are beating for population growth right now is West Virginia. So when we are asked why we are doing this, it's 3 very simple reasons right here on this palm card. Hannah, Thomas, and Danny. That's our 9-year-old, our 6-year-old, and our 19-month-old. And like many of you and all of you in this room right now, the last thing that we want is for one of our kids to come to us and tell us, Mom, Dad, unfortunately I have to leave because there's no opportunity for me here in the greatest state in the entire country. And that is why we have put forth a bold, positive vision for this state. That's what I look forward to talking about tonight, because let me be frank about this. The challenges that Michigan faces right now are greater than any one of us sitting on this stage. I look forward to attacking problems tonight. That's what this campaign is going to be focused on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Mr. Nesbitt.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for the Saginaw Republican Party. First off, with President Trump and our soldiers in war over in the Middle East, I just would like to offer a little moment of silence. Feel free to take it out of my time for the president and for the troops in harm's way. Thank you. This is what it's all about, is defending our freedoms. I'm Eric Nesbitt. I'm running for governor because right now it's tough for our job providers, for our families, and for our kids to make it here in Michigan. I'm running for governor so that everybody can finally make it here in Michigan. I grew up on a 6th-generation dairy and grape farm in southwest Michigan. Know the value of hard work, of faith, of family. Going to church on Sundays, you learn the values that girls and boys are actually different. I think some people could learn that. I grew up without air conditioning, worked hard for everything that I've ever had. Went to Hillsdale College and my degree in economics, and boy, going to Hillsdale, you understand why America is the last best hope of mankind. But it was 6 years ago, under the COVID lockdowns. I have a young family of 3, beautiful wife Tricia. It was 6 years ago when Governor Whitmer and the Democrats locked us down. I was taking my wife to the OB's office. We were expecting our second born then. I had to stay in the parking lot. I couldn't go in with her because of Governor Whitmer. And I get a text a few moments later saying that we lost our second born to a miscarriage. The worst thing that could happen to a parent, but because of the Democrats in Lansing and Governor Whitmer, I couldn't be holding her hand. As your next governor, that will never happen again. So I'm running I'm running for governor so that our families can make it here in Michigan, our job providers can make it here in Michigan, most importantly, our kids can make it in Michigan. Partnering with President Trump to ban sanctuary cities, and as your next governor, I'm going to make sure everybody makes it here in Michigan.
Mr. Revent.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. And I just wanted to also mention, let's keep Mike Cox and his family in prayer. And I was going to mention the military as well. But I know I have some friends that are in the military, Gen Z folks, and they've told me that we actually have people from Michigan that are over in the Middle East. And so let's keep them in our prayers as we move forward. Our country is having its 250th anniversary this year. There are people, let me restate that, there are evil people who want us to go down. They want our country to go away. They want their own agenda, and it's more than just people. It's an evil agenda of good versus evil. My friends, Thomas Jefferson wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and they're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among them are life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness." If Thomas Jefferson were here today, he would tell you that we're all doing pretty well. We're alive in this room. But liberty and the pursuit of happiness is on the verge of being gone. He would tell us that our state has been sold out. He would tell us that it's been sold out to the lobbyists who write the bills. It's been sold out to the big donors who pick their candidates. It's been sold out to politicians who say one thing at debates and in the election time, and then they do just the opposite when they're elected. Friends, I am running for governor because as I look at this situation, I have lived the American dream. My wife, who's out in the audience, we can debate this, Tom. She's tracking me all over the state, and she will make the greatest first lady this state has ever seen. This is our 50th year to be married, and we are delighted to be able to represent Michigan on this race.
Okay, now we can begin the questions. Round one, everybody. Mr. Johnson, how will you address the shortage of affordable housing in the state, and would you support recent legislation just brought forward in the Michigan House that would cut down on regulations that some say would slow growth, but there's many cities and municipalities that don't want this to go through. They don't want change. They don't want regulation to be eased because some say it would change their communities. What would you do about affordable housing?
Well, everybody knows that my whole theme is the economy. If I get $4,747 back into every family, they will get almost $5,000 a year that they can actually use to buy a home. I think it starts with the fact that we can't throw away the money. And right now, we had incorrect numbers on the budget. Realized that $49 billion was the budget when Gretchen took office. It is now, the new budget proposed is close to $87 billion. So I want everybody to make it very clear that that is one of the, maybe the largest increase as a percent of any budget in the country. That's because she throws money away. Let's stop throwing the money away. Let's now eliminate all the cost for excessive regulation. When you spend so much money just trying to regulate things, it causes a huge problem. So there's a fine balance between having a regulation that prevents death and a regulation that prevents surgery. So you have to have the ability to have a compromise. But I am one that is focusing on the economy, and what I want people to leave with tonight is to feel that every family can become richer if we can cut this ridiculous expense that goes on in our government. And it starts with the idea that they love to steal your money, and they'd rather spend your money than have you spend the money. So I'm going to ask a simple question to everyone here. Is there any way on earth that we're going to be able to really ameliorate our goods and services spending less money unless you have somebody like an efficiency expert coming in to make it better and better for less money? We have to stop throwing away money. We have to stop throwing away $1 billion to try to increase the speed of an Amtrak train by 10 miles an hour. That's my answer.
Thank you very much. Mr. Leonard, how will you address affordable housing? And I did bring up there's legislation just introduced in the House that would cut some regulation and red tape. Like, for example, in Michigan, there's some communities that the square footage of a new home has to be at least 2,000 square feet or something. And some communities don't like that.
So I mentioned in my opening, my priority is to make certain that we can keep our kids here. And in the last 10 years, the average home cost is up $100,000 and the average rent is up 40%. You think about the stress that this puts on a young couple when they cannot afford a home. Or if they can afford one, but 60, 70, 80% of their income is going to that mortgage. There's no more date night. There's no more vacation. But sadly, now they got to really contemplate whether or not they can start a family. We have got to do something about this affordable housing crisis, and frankly, it starts with supply. We have to build more. In addition to this in addition to this affordable housing crisis, we have a skilled trade shortage. So we have dedicated an entire section to our plan to affordable housing. Question for you. My uncle, journeyman electrician, South Carolina for 20 years, marries my aunt, he moves here. It takes him several months to find a job. Why? Not because one wasn't available, but because the state of Michigan made him jump through all the hoops. And we've got a skilled trade shortage. Why don't we become the easiest state in the entire country to find a job? Let's tell the world, you show up, you show us your certification, we will put you to work immediately building homes. Second, we need more flexibility with the merit curriculum. Why do we have these students right now, their junior, senior year, who are forced to take an extra Spanish class, science class, math class, if they want to go into the skilled trades? And there's this trades program down the street, let that money follow them and let them start getting certified immediately. We've got to do something about this skilled trade shortage. We've got to address this affordable housing crisis. And again, it starts with supply. I want to answer your question, Dave. I have not reviewed this legislation, but I will tell you this. It's directly here in our plan. Eliminate unnecessary regulations and speed up permit approvals at both state and local levels. Review zoning rules that don't directly affect public safety. That's in our plan.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nesbitt, the affordable housing, the lack of housing. I know people that some can't even get into an apartment, actually.
Yeah, it's just tough to make it in Gretchen Whitmer's Michigan right now. And believe me, if Jocelyn Benson wins this fall, it's going to be even harder and more expensive to live here in Michigan. That's why I'm running for governor, to make sure that we bring down the cost of housing, make Michigan more affordable. First thing is, instead of giving away free rent, free housing, free health care to illegal aliens, I'm going to step up and join with President Trump to remove every criminal illegal alien here in the state, ban the sanctuary cities, and make sure that we are not subsidizing illegal immigrants here in Michigan. That ends on day one with Governor Nesbitt. Next, you're exactly right, that when the average family, the average first-time home buyer is 40 years old right now to buy a house. Just as President Trump's working to increase the supply nationally, bring down the interest rates here in America, that's going to help make it more accessible. The average new home costs $98,000 just for the cost of regulations. That's federal, that's state, that's local. And you add it up, and I don't know about you, but as a farm boy like me, $98,000 is a lot of money. I was just down in Macomb a little bit ago, and I was talking to a contractor, electrical contractor. He said he had a good Marine. He said once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. But he had a good Marine that was working as an electrician, working his way up to a journeyman, master electrician, was looking for his first house. And he looked at it, he's like, I can't afford my first house in Michigan. And he moved to Indiana to finish that. We're losing good people because the affordability crisis that Gretchen Whitmer and the Democrats have made in Michigan is your next governor. We're going to increase supply, deport criminal illegal aliens, and make sure that we bring back trades into our schools. That's how you fix it.
Mr. Rebant, affordable housing, how do you open up and get more housing in this state and make it more affordable?
Sure. Families shouldn't have to sacrifice the American dream to live in Michigan, and we're going to make it worth staying for. How are we going to do that? We're going to eliminate property tax. Carla Wagner got this going a couple of years ago. We've been supporting it for years because it's a great idea. Property tax will help everybody, not just the wealthy. Having said that, the government needs a total overhaul, from tax structure to unfunded mandates, because what happens, if you know how the system works, you get these unfunded mandates from Lansing, they send them down to the local areas. The local areas, the township supervisors, the city council, they scratch their head and they say, how on earth are we going to pay for this? Well, the answer is we're going to raise property tax so we can afford these unfunded mandates. So we're going to get rid of unfunded mandates. I will do that. I'll get rid of the green mandates that Whitmer has said. All of that stuff that she has put together, a Reban administration is going to run really simply. Just whatever she did, we're going to cancel it out. It's important that we understand, though, that when we look at housing, as was just mentioned, the average homeowner is, the average first-time homeowner is 40 years old. In the 1960s, friends, people got married at 19, 20 years old. I see some people in this room. I got married at 18, so I was ahead of that, but later in my life. But the bottom line is, people got married at 20. They had their first kid at 1 year old, 21, and then they had the potential of having 1 to 6 kids. Right now, kids can't afford it. The Gen Zers cannot afford a home. If they get married, it's around 28. They have their first kid at 32. And as you know, the average family now that's having kids is 1.6. That's unacceptable. And by doing a total overhaul on the budget, on the economy, on the and the government, we will cut that out.
Thank you very much. Round two. We'll start with Mr. Leonard. Governor Whitmer has said she would open up her office to freedom of information. Now, she hasn't. It's not just a Democrat issue. The Republicans have not done it either. In lawmakers or Republican governors, they haven't. I remember arguing with Governor Snyder about it when I was a reporter. He didn't open his office as well. So what do you do for FOIA? How do you make this happen? And will you promise now, if you are governor, that you will accept my FOIA request?
So I'm going to push back just a bit when you say Republicans haven't made it happen, because I can tell you when I was House Speaker, one of my top priorities was getting FOIA reform out of the House and over to the Senate. We did that. Okay. I have supported this for years. Sadly, the Senate killed it.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that said, we were the first campaign, and we've got to go further than just FOIA. We were the first campaign, and it's in our plan to release an entire ethics and accountability plan. Yes, we have got to open the executive branch to FOIA. We are one of 2 states that don't do that. It's got to be fixed immediately. Every single state employee needs to be back in the office immediately. Their salaries need to be posted online for the world to see. And guess what? We need to program their office phone such that on the 4th ring, if they don't pick up, it goes directly to the department head's cell phone, because they got to be accountable to you. When it comes to accountability, you will continually hear politicians say that they want a Doge state government, but often can't tell you what that means. Frankly, I want to go a step further. Why would we Doge state government and force the legislature to go through every single line item to find the fraud, waste, and abuse, when we can hold the governor accountable, go back to zero-based budgeting, zero out the entire budget, and force me and my department heads to justify why every single line item needs to be put back in that budget? That is how you find the fraud, waste, and abuse. Why do we allow any politician to fundraise on session days or committee days? We ought to ban any fundraising anytime there's session, because frankly, we should not even have the perception in this state that there is pay to play. All of these issues that I just mentioned are part of our accountability and ethics package. It's in the plan, but yes, I support FOIA, and it is something we will get done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nesbitt. And it's not just only at the state level. The FOIA laws that are in place are horrible. We have an independent journalist in the crowd that's been charged with $40,000, $100,000 by your local Holly. Exactly. And every journalist here would probably agree Michigan's the worst. So what do? You become governor. I know you have to work with the legislature. Do you open it up? How do you do this?
Well, first off, you show the the lies that Governor Whitmer and the Democrats have done over the last several years. She said that she'd have the most open and transparent government. She gets in there and she ignores opening up the books. And we saw that during COVID, right? She said she was going to use science and data to make all these decisions. And we know she used polling data and political science to make these decisions. And she destroyed thousands of lives, nursing home deaths that she still won't repeal. And God bless folks for continuing to bird dog that issue to uncover it. I'd say she's the least transparent governor in our history. And you look at Jocelyn Benson, that's current Secretary of State, she'd make it even worse. And so it's up to us. And as your next governor, I'm going to make sure we open up the books. It's not just at the executive level, but it's also we know we need to reform the local level in terms of opening up for local citizens, local reporters, to make it easier to make these inquiries. Because if we're not going line by line, if we're not going to find the waste, fraud, and abuse in our state government, then what are we doing here? And as your next governor, I'm going to create what's called the Fiscal Accountability Financial Oversight Board, FAFO, going through each line in every department in local government to find the waste, fraud, and abuse and put that back into your pockets. Because every dollar, we know what Democrats do. They tax and spend you into oblivion, and you have less in your wallet. I want to get it back to your wallet. That's why I'm running for governor, so that everybody can make it here in Michigan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rebant, same question. You become governor, you open your office to FOIA. What's your take on that? Because Michigan is, in my opinion, it's the worst with transparency.
Indeed it is. I'm the only candidate up here who ran in 2022 on the primary ballot. That was part of my program 2 years ago, and the reason why is because the citizens deserve to know what their government is doing. 100% they deserve to know. I'm not only going to do FOIA, and you ask, how are we going to do that? Well, I will do that if I have to by executive order and then twist every legislator's arm to pass it into law. I will do that. But not only are we going to do this, there are a couple other impediments to actually getting the residents to knowing what's going on. Non-disclosure agreements. They're gone when I'm governor. They are gone. If you can't attend a meeting of the government that you support with your taxes, they're called There's No Open Meetings. These three things, folks, non-disclosure, FOIA, and you can't attend their meetings, that makes every department under my watch suspect, which means I will fire people who sign non-disclosure agreements. I will fire people who want to charge you $100,000 for their FOIA. We are going to make the cost of getting the information the cost of printing the paper. That's what we have to do to make this work.
Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson, you become governor. Can I FOIA you? How do you do this and get the legislature?
It's actually critical that you have the Freedom of Information Act and you have the ability to actually see what's going on. But you can understand why Governor Whitmer did not allow this, because she has so much going on. It's not as simple as you might think. You have to actually change the entire philosophy and the way the government is run. And you have to change the mindset, just like you do in a company. When you're given a budget of $100, understand that right now in our government, they go out of their way to spend every single penny of that. In fact, it gets to the point of almost being ridiculous. I would go up to them, and if it were Ralph over there, at 3 months to go, I'd say, Ralph, find a way to spend that money. I mean, I've got to find a way. I don't care what you have to do with it. I don't care if you have to buy toothpicks. You find a way to get rid of that money. And then they systematically go to each head of the department to do exactly that. Now, think of how absurd it is. Can you imagine going to your wife? If I imagine going to my wife and saying, honey, make sure that we are broke. I need to make sure we don't have any money at the end of the month. You do that every month, pretty soon we're all broke. Now, that is the most absurd way to run any organization, and that's exactly how we run it now. I wrote a book, 2 Cents to Save America. Does anyone have a copy of that book? You should all have a copy. We have to change it, because we have to change the way governments run. Instead of insisting that they spend every penny. We do just the opposite. We incentivize the people to spend less so that they get a bonus for saving money. And then what happens is every single line item, when you're auditing it, now you are actually paying attention to what's going on. We do that and we save bundles. Imagine the absurdity. We take that $49 billion that we started with, if it went up at the rate of inflation, our budget would currently be about $24 billion more. Instead, it's almost doubled. We could easily pay to eliminate that income tax and cut your property taxes, and I say that's what we do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nesbitt, switching to corporate handouts. And often in the media, I know when I was in the newsroom, we would get news releases from the MEDC. We're bringing 1,000 jobs to this county, 500 jobs to that county. The state of Michigan has been throwing, I'd say, billions of dollars at companies, and it's just not working. What would you do about Michigan just giving away the corporate handouts?
You have a perfect track record on eliminating corporate welfare and fighting against this corporate welfare and handouts. But really, you look at Governor Whitmer and what she's done to this state to make it tougher for our job creators to invest and grow here in Michigan. Repealing right to work, tougher to do business. Higher income taxes, tougher to do business. Bureaucratic red tape in Lansing that's strangling our businesses here in the state. It's wrong. It needs to end. I'm going to take a blowtorch to the bureaucracy in Lansing and say we're open for business. Allow job creators to invest and grow. I was talking to a manufacturer over on the west side of the state. They build boats. Fourth generation family business. 700 families depend on jobs at this manufacturing business. And over the last, they tried to get a new dock, replace their dock. And they're 4 years in, $1.5 million of legal and engineering costs to replace a freaking dock. And they still don't have it. Believe me, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida will be doing backflips to get a company like this. Day one, it's going to end. Accountability to the taxpayers. But you hear that all across the state. The $5 billion that Governor Whitmer has handed out to some of the most profitable companies in the world, some that are related to the Chinese Communist Party, could have fixed every local critical condition bridge in the state of Michigan 3 times over. 3 times over. It's about priorities. When you've had a governor that's taken Roundup to the economic garden and make it tougher for job creators to invest and grow, you've got to go back to getting basics. Lower taxes, less red tape, good schools, making sure that we're accountable to the people. That's how you make sure everybody can make it in Michigan. And believe me, Jocelyn Benson would just make it worse. We got to win this fall.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rebant, corporate handouts, it's promises of thousands of jobs and great things. It's just not working, and the money is going, and a lot of it's not coming back. The companies just flee the state.
Well, first of all, if you ever hear that government makes jobs, we're in a socialistic country. Government doesn't create jobs. They can only create an environment where jobs flourish. Don't ever forget that, please. That's such an important thing. This is a great follow-up to what was just asked. I mentioned that there are 3 things that I will cancel a committee or a department underneath me. If you can't FOIA them, if they don't let you attend their meetings, and if they sign non-disclosures. You know who the biggest department is like this? The MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. I will eliminate that department. They have wasted your money. They gave Faye Bodine $20 million for a they agreed on $20 million for a company that wasn't even in existence. That was Whitmer's friend. That was Whitmer's friend. They gave over $100 million, as was mentioned, to Goshen. They were trying to negotiate back another $50 million, but it's not happening. If you look at the Mackinac Center, folks, they will tell you that the MEDC is the biggest crook agency in the state, and we will do everything to eliminate that. So, Dave, that's where I am on it, and that's where I'm passionate about this, because I have seen too much corruption, I've heard too many promises, and I've seen too much cover-up, and I'm not going to put up with that.
Mr. Johnson, the world of corporate handouts. You're a businessman. You've been on that other side, not saying corporate handouts, but on the business side of it. As governor, what's your take? Because Michigan's giving away a lot of money.
Actually, it's nutty. Do you know that we decided to give $3 billion to the Chinese companies so that they could build a plant here, literally a battery plant? Now, nothing could be more absurd. You want to ignite Michigan? Let's eliminate the state income tax. Now, I'm going to be a broken record. Almost $5,000 gets into your pocket, but understand that every single state in the union that eliminated the income tax, without exception, ignited that state. Let's take a look at what happened in Tennessee. Tennessee is just like Michigan. They were losing population for 15, 20 years, and then what did happen? Well, suddenly they eliminate the income tax, and they flourish. Where did Ford build their new plant? In Tennessee. Ford, the bastion of this state. Ford, the state, literally the Ford Motor Company, the Ford family made Michigan what it is today. And yet, they built their new plant there. Because you need to make it attractive for young people to come here. Make it attractive for people to want to be here. Wouldn't you rather be in a state where you didn't have to pay the extra income tax? I've got a son, too. I can't find out where he is. He's somewhere hiding. But ask him, Perry, would all your friends be happier? Wouldn't they stay? We lose 40% of our kids. We have 550,000 students within a literally 50-mile radius of Metro Detroit. Do you know we lose 40% within the first 5 years? But they'll stay if there's a reason to stay. I say we now do something to ignite Michigan. Florida flourish, Texas flourish, let Tennessee flourishes. Every state without income tax flourishes because we get $5,000 into the hands of every family in Michigan. Think about it. Has anyone ever heard of 4747? That's my slogan. 4747 back in your pocket. And by the way, I haven't taken a single dime. I'm funding my own campaign, so nobody could buy me off, and nobody is paying me to say this.
Thank you very much. Mr. Leonard, the evidence is true. The corporate handouts, it's not working in Michigan. And what's your take on that, the MEDC?
So it doesn't work, but it goes a step further. Listen, I grew up, my parents were small business owners. And I can't tell you how much they struggled during the Granholm years to keep their doors open. I watched them work for half as much and work twice as long every single day. And the idea that the government would take money out of their pockets, take money out of your pockets, and give it to big corporations and ask them to move here is downright offensive. It should end. Our plan calls for completely eliminating the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and we would start the Michigan Business Action Center. And it would not give one dime out picking winners and losers. It would serve as a customer service center for all businesses across this state, especially small businesses. Imagine Jenny and Tim from Alabama that want to come to Saginaw and start a coffee shop, but they have no idea how to do it. They could pick up the phone, they could call the Michigan Business Action Center, and they could be put in contact with the good folks here in Saginaw that know how to help them open a business. That is what it would do. You want to talk about corporate welfare, something that has not been brought up tonight, and I hope it does, but if not, I'm not going to miss this opportunity. We have got to do something about these data centers coming into the state of Michigan. Right now, we are giving tens of millions of dollars in tax subsidies to companies like Amazon, Microsoft, the richest companies in the entire world, taking them out of your pockets, bringing these data centers here. Some of these data centers use as much energy as the entire city of Detroit when we have the highest electricity rates in the Midwest, some of the highest across the country. It is time we stand up and say no to big tech and frankly say no to the monopoly utility companies that are pushing them to be here. That's how you push back on corporate welfare.
Thank you, sir.
So, Tom, if I could ask Tom a question. Tom, the monopoly all happened under your guys' watch, and I'm wondering why didn't you stop the monopoly between DTE and consumers?
Okay, obviously you can respond.
Yeah, thanks, and I
Yeah,
appreciate
so
that.
I would push back on that. What I would say is that there was legislation that was introduced, Raul, that was going to give the utilities 100% monopoly. And what I did is I fought like crazy to make certain that we could at least preserve the 10% that we have, because if I wouldn't have done that, we would have had 100% monopoly. That's why.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on. I've been asked to announce the straw poll. The straw poll is closing at 7:30. Ballots are on the back table. Some of you have not voted yet, I've been told, so I was asked to announce that. Okay, moving on. We are at Mr. Rebant. Question on school choice, and there might be many people here that don't understand, for example, Florida, in the money following the child. In the state of Florida, I interviewed a parent who moved from Livonia to Florida because of school choice. The money follows the student, whether it be homeschool, special needs, whatever. But Michigan has the Blaine Amendment. What's your take on school choice, and how do you make that more of a happen in Michigan?
If we go back to Michigan compiled law 380.10, says that parents have the natural right to determine the education of their children. I would keep beating that drum, which means if there are parents that want to send their kids to the public school, that's fine. If they want to homeschool them, that's fine. If they want a Christian school or charter school, that's fine. I happen to be a product of a Christian school. I learned a lot. I would never go back and change anything in that whole education. In fact, I met my wife in 7th grade. That's why I love that situation. But here's the point. We have to eliminate property tax. And when we eliminate property tax, it gives parents the money in their hands to be able to decide where they want to send their school.
Should the money follow the child, though?
Yeah, absolutely. The money should follow the child, but the government must not follow the money. You see, that's the biggest fear with parochial schools. I have some Catholic friends, and the reason why they don't want that is because they're afraid that the government, okay, you're giving the money to school, they're afraid that the government will come in and tell them what they have to teach their kids. If we take it away from that scenario and just say the parent has the money, the parent decides if they want to save the money in homeschool, if they want to save the money or send them to a Christian school, they will have the money, they will have the choice to do that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson, I believe we're at now. School choice. Indiana, Mississippi, Florida, way bigger school choice, and it's passing in legislatures across the country. What is your take on school choice? Because we have a little bit of school choice, but not completely like other states.
Well, first of all, I want to make it very clear that there is a law that's already been passed that gives you a $1,700 credit which you automatically get in your taxes. It's in existence right now, and we could take it, except that Governor Whitmer does not want to give you any money. She wants to take all your money.
The
Trump
President
Amendment.
Okay.
So that's available right now. I want to make that clear. I want to make it also very clear that we can't eliminate the property tax without a constitutional amendment. We can make little changes. That's why I talk about reform. It's going to take a multi-year effort because it's very, very unfair right now. But when we talk about school of choice, there is absolutely no question that when you take a look at the various school of choice options that you have, that we have more effective options in Michigan for people that want to take advantage of these. And for them not to have the school of choice is a sin. I think it's just a travesty that you don't have an opportunity to actually go to the school of your choice and have the economic advantage that you should get. What Gretchen Whitmer is doing is one of the most heinous things I can imagine. She changed the program for teaching young kids, added $1 billion a year to the training program. You know what? We eliminated phonics. They don't even teach phonics. Now, what do you have to learn? It starts in the beginning. You need vocabulary and you need phonics. Perry, back there, he can remember when I had everybody letter factory, my kids, every letter makes a sound. The A says ah, the B says ba. We teach that in the beginning. We start with a reasonable approach. And we have to recognize that we have some schools here that are just spectacular. Why shouldn't they have a right to go to those spectacular schools if they choose? Why is that wrong? So we have to do that in every way. We do that, and we will once again make it attractive for people to come to this state. The young people will come here because we're going to eliminate the state income tax. Are we going to eliminate the tax? Is it going to be gone? Yes.
Thank you very much.
We're going to have great education as well.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Leonard, school choice, and some people may not understand about the money following the child because it's commonplace in other states, but Michigan, how do you make this happen? I know it's a big hurdle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it will require a constitutional amendment, and certainly something that I would support doing 100%. I mean, when it comes to education, I've got one guiding principle that I look at that guides me, and that is this. I will trust you as the parent every day to make decisions for your child's education over the government. And certainly that money should follow the child. One thing we've got to talk about when it comes to school choice, though, and we made certain that we included that because it's so important, we better make certain that whoever's up here as the next governor better fight every day to preserve and protect a parent's right to homeschool. That is something that is important. But I travel the state, and I meet single mothers in Detroit or single mothers in Flint, areas where only 11 or 6% of their children, the third graders in those public schools, can read at a proficient level. Why in the world would we ever force those single mothers, or any family for that matter, to send their kid to a failing school and not allow them to have the same options that a wealthy family in Grand Blanc or Birmingham has? We need more choice. We need more competition. We've got to expand it. And yes, the money should follow the child, because I don't care how much money you make. You ought to be able to send your child to where you believe they're going to be best educated.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nesbitt, school choice. Obviously, something's not working in Michigan.
Yeah, as somebody who went to Hillsdale College, somebody that was homeschooled, believe me, I'm the biggest advocate for school choice and empowering parents. Day one is your next governor. I'm going to sign President Trump's school choice tax credit. And the next governor is your next governor. I'll do that on day one. Opt us into it. But boy, has Governor Whitmer created an education crisis here in Michigan. Not just the COVID lockdowns, where the average kid is 3/4 of a grade level behind. But when you have 3 out of 5 fourth graders that can't read at grade level, and we know if you're not able to read at grade level, you have a nearly 70% chance of doing one of two things in your life: serving some time in jail or being on social welfare. Boy, that paints a dark picture, very grim picture of the future of Michigan. I want to paint a very different picture for the future of Michigan. One where every kid can read by 3rd grade. One where we lift up teachers and the phonics-based science of reading. We actually have scholarships and tuition scholarships for kids to be able to do reading that this governor actually cruelly vetoed a few years ago. And it's more than that. It's ripping out the DEI and the wokeness from our schools that's poisoning it. I was talking to a parent of a 6th grader a few weeks ago. Lives down in Metro Detroit, and they said their 12-year-old was called down to the office because he refused to call another boy the they-them pronoun. God bless this little kid, because when he got down to the office, he told the principals, like, I thought with President Trump's new orders that I didn't have to do this silliness. Believe me, as your next governor, I'm going to have that kid's back. I'm going to have our parents back. I'm going to have our students back. And it's about making sure that every kid can finally make it here in Michigan again.
Thank you very much. Yet another round. I believe we're at Perry Johnson now. Moving to, I want to make sure, right? Yes, correct. Okay. How do you, as governor, become governor, improve bipartisan cooperation in a very highly polarized political environment? Michigan, everywhere you look, social media, people are just divided. How do you bring people together if you become governor?
Well, I've been used to doing that every day with my wife. We have a situation where in the real world, when you run a business, you end up constantly compromising. Everybody thinks that if you run a very large organization, that it's just a matter of a dictatorship. It doesn't work that way. You really have to work with having the people work together. People love it when it's their idea. When it's their idea, they're bonded. And even though they may have to be maneuvered for it to be their idea, the bottom line is that the people are the same all over the world. Now, what's great about this is that when I am governor, I have these great people here as staff members. I have these great people that are used to working. And the beauty of this is that they are going to work together because we are going to be a happy clan. I expect us to be particularly happy this year because it is my belief that the Detroit Tigers are going to win the World Series. And so we are going to have probably the happiest state in the union. When we add to that the fact that they're not going to be paying any income tax because we've eliminated the state income tax, they are truly going to be happy. But the bottom line is, it is when you run an organization, when you try to run a government, whether you run a medium-sized or a large company, it's all the same. You really do have to work with people. The days of autocracy are gone. When I was a Boy Scout, I remember my troop leader told me when I had a meeting and I was going to discuss what it is that we were going to do, he said, "You're never going to be a leader because you can't allow people to get involved in decision making." But now it's a group effort. And as a group effort, we're going to really lead Michigan.
Thank you. Tom Leonard, what steps will you take to improve bipartisan cooperation? Because as a nation, as a state, we seem so divided, but as governor, to make things work, you're going to have to work with everyone.
Yeah, you know, it starts with doing exactly what you've seen with me tonight, and that is you've got to show up to Lansing, you've got to have a clear vision, you've got to be bold, and you've got to be direct. And that's how I've always approached this business. I remember when I was a freshman legislator, my number one priority was revamping the preliminary examination process. That's the first step in the criminal justice process. I was told, give it up. It's never going to happen. We've tried this for 20 years. Well, after a few weeks of working on this, and again, being very direct and not taking no for an answer, I found out that nobody had ever had the District Court Judges Association and the Prosecuting Attorneys Association sit in a room to talk about it. We did that for 3 days. We came out with a compromise that was much better than where I wanted to head. And I think there was one no vote in the House, and it passed unanimously in the Senate. I remember one of my top priorities as Speaker was getting rid of these ridiculous driver responsibility fees that had put 350,000 of our people in a place where they had no hope of getting a driver's license. 75,000 of them in the city of Detroit. And I never stopped. I was bold, I was direct, and you know what? I ultimately had to go to war with the Republican governor to get it done, but we got it done, and we passed it both the House and the Senate unanimously, and we changed the lives for 350,000 people in this state. That is what leadership does. Now, I want to go back to something, so I've got 30 seconds, talking about being bold and direct. Going back to the education issue, we can't just speak here with talking points. We've got to have a plan. So when it comes to this transgender nonsense, I don't know if you saw what happened in the Rockford school system. They were transitioning a minor child behind a parent's back without their knowledge and without their consent. Our plan calls on Michigan being the first state where if you do that in a public school, you go to jail.
Thank you very much. Eric Nesbitt, as governor, how do you work with all sides?
I'm going to turn Michigan into a red state. That's the first thing. We saw what Governor Whitmer, the Democrats, did with their majorities in the House and Senate and governorship. They drove us over an edge. They put Roundup on our economic garden, and they're driving jobs out of the state, raising prices, raising costs of insurance, raising costs of energy, raising costs of food, all while making it tougher and tougher for our job creators to invest and grow here. I'm sorry. The status quo is not working in Michigan. And if you expect somebody to just go down and tinker around with the status quo in Lansing, that's not going to work. That's not going to make Michigan more affordable. That's not going to make it easier for job creators to invest and grow here in Michigan. And it's not going to fix the education system of our state. As governor, I'm going to take a blowtorch to the state government in Lansing to make sure that we're getting the savings that we need to repeal the Green New Scam that's industrializing hundreds of thousands of acres of farm and forest land while raising your rates by $2,800. One Democrat could have stopped that. There wasn't one Democrat that wanted, that did. And if you think that Jocelyn Benson's going to play nice, she's going to even be less confident and even more liberal than Governor Whitmer. We're at a crossroads, guys. We got to have bold plans, bold ideas to make sure that Michigan's more affordable. The average family makes $9,000 less than the average family nationally, and yet we're paying higher energy and insurance costs. Talking to a guy up in Gladwin the other day. He moved from Tennessee to Michigan, a right-to-work state, no income tax state. And he said he added up his costs, his utility costs, his insurance costs, his local taxes costs. And he says, I'm paying $5,000 more a year to live in Michigan than I did in Tennessee. And I don't know about you, but as a farm boy, that's a lot of money. That's how you make sure families can make it here.
So a lot of that does not sound bipartisan. How would you get the other side to be welcome to you? Because I know Governor Whitmer hasn't.
We win, they lose.
Does that work, though, with the other? Okay.
Dave,
what's your take on coming together, because we are so divided?
Yeah, you know, this is one of my strong points, because as a counselor, I've listened to husbands and wives who want to kill each other because of whatever reason. And you have to have a discerning heart. You have to be willing to listen. Having said that, I will not compromise on anything. In fact, you know, as I even say that, I'm like, okay, should I even say that? But here's the point. There's a difference between truth and opinion. We will unite on truth. People will realize when I'm governor, their opinion is just an opinion. So I'm going to listen to them, and I will bring out the fallacies in their thinking, the fallacies in their arguments, and I understand being strong. Believe me, I understand that. I've led organizations that you have to be strong. But my point is this. There are things that we can unite around. And I even wonder, as I make that statement, can the Democrats unite around our Constitution? I would have to convince them that our Constitution is the basis for what we believe, the way we live, our whole way of life here in America. I would tell people who want to come in and say, okay, Ralph, I want you to listen to me I want to tell you why we need Sharia law. I would say, no, that's not what we're doing. America was not built on Sharia law. It was built on biblical truth out of the Constitution. So, Dave, to answer your question, you have to be a keen listener. You have to be able to bring people together. And just last month, I sat down with an individual from Detroit, and he literally hates Donald Trump. But I was able to find some points of connection with him. At the end of that discussion, and this man is an influencer, he put his hand on his shoulder and he said, Ralph, you're my guy. This was a black man from Detroit. He said, you're my guy because we have things that we can unite on. That's what I'll do, Dave.
Okay. Where did I start at? Where we left off? Okay, Mr. Leonard, I think you're... Yeah, okay, this might be the last round. I mean, what time we got? 32? Okay, this might be the last round. Oh, sorry. It's been a long night. Yeah, exactly. You were compromising with your wife. I need to learn how to do that. Exactly. I need to talk to you about that, yeah. Been married 20 years, and it's still an issue. She's not here, so I can say it. Oh, I'm live streaming. She could be watching. Hello. Okay, something that I get asked a lot as a reporter, and a lot of the journalists here do too. It seems like every township, there's something coming up about a solar farm or wind. I did a story the other day in Saginaw County. It's a town with only 600 people. They want to turn farmland into 1,100 acres of solar. As governor, can you turn this around, or is the train already moving? Where do you deal with this? Because the studies have shown Michigan's not great for solar, even wind.
No, we absolutely have to, and this is exactly why I have been pushing back so hard on these big tech data centers. Again, let me run through this for you, with you for just a moment. There is a data center 1 that's being proposed in Saline Township right now. 1.4 gigawatts. That is the equivalent energy of 1 million homes. That is larger or as large as Wayne County. You think about what the legislature has done over the past few years. First, they put these green energy mandates in place. Second, they took away local control and put it in the hands of 3 unelected bureaucrats, so now you have no say on these solar farms and these wind farms coming to your districts. Now they're giving tens of millions of dollars to these big tech data centers that are coming in and again using more energy, just one of them, than the entire city of Detroit. That data center in Saline Township, if you had to power that thing with just solar farms, 75,000 football fields worth of solar panels. Guys, we better wake up and we better get on this. So absolutely, we need to restore local control immediately. We need to get rid of these green energy mandates. And frankly, I'm calling on, and if you want to sign our petition, we're calling for a 1-year moratorium immediately on data centers because they should not be coming in here driving up your energy rates. Going back to the last question, I cannot believe I forgot to mention this. You want to have a successful governor next term? Let's spend the next 6 weeks focused 100% on making certain that Jason Tunney goes to the state Senate because we have got to have a Senate majority when we get there.
Thank you very much. Eric Nesbitt, it seems every day I'm getting a message from people. My community wants a solar farm. This is happening. It seems like it's being rushed through, and I know it's the Governor Whitmer thing and Democrats. As governor, it goes into place. How do you reverse that? Can you?
Well, fortunately, with President Trump, thank God he's president, he started to reverse it. With the Biden subsidies and the bribes that we're sending out, he was making, remember, Biden made all these San Francisco millionaires into San Francisco billionaires with Chinese solar products that they were buying. And then Governor Whitmer and the Democrats in Lansing went ahead and did this mandate where they're going to ban natural gas in Michigan. That's going to raise your already highest energy bills in the Midwest, another $2,800 per family. I don't know about you, but as a farm boy, that's a lot of money. My pocketbook can't afford that, and I don't think yours can either. As your next governor, we're going to repeal what I call the Green New Scam, because that's what it is. You can't run an economy on fairies and pixie dust. You run it on natural gas. You run it on nuclear. And you make sure that you invest and allow them to invest and grow here in Michigan. President Trump believes in energy dominance. That means we're abundant with energy. So we lower the cost for consumers, for job creators, to allow them to invest and grow here in America. And just as President Trump's working to say made in the USA, I'm going to work with them and team to get it made in Michigan. And so to lower your costs of energy, we have to do an all the above, nuclear and natural gas. We got to rebuild the Great Lakes Tunnel, the Line 5, so we have supply to propane, a $1 billion investment to protect our Great Lakes, a $1 billion investment, private investment, that this governor has been suing them on for years and stopping it. We can get this done as your next governor with a Republican legislature. Let's make it happen so that everybody can make it here in Michigan so you keep more money in your pockets.
Thank you very much. Ralph Rebant, the Governor Whitmer would love to power the state on solar and wind.
It's just impossible. You cannot do that in Michigan. We don't have enough sunny days to make that happen with solar. We don't have enough windy days to make it happen. I drive up and down 127 and I see these windmills just sitting there. They're ugly as sin. As I think of what we really need to do, we need to bring to bear some of the historical things that our state has done. Nobody knows the history. Nobody knows the I shouldn't say nobody. Very few people know history. Very few people know the Constitution. And the reality is this. Public Act, I believe it's 226 or 266, protected our farms here in Michigan. They had to remain farms. So when you hear the phrase solar farms, it's because they're using that terminology. They know that they shouldn't be putting those solar panels in our fields. The Potato Association has said we will not grow potatoes in an area where there's been solar panels. God forbid they should get struck with lightning and all of that glass go into the dirt, we would be a mess. The problem with solar panels, the problem with data centers, the problem with windmills is this. They are dividing our state. You bring something into the middle of a farm and you've got people on each side arguing. Somebody who needs to pay their property tax and they want that money from the solar or the windmill. Friends, this is dividing our state. We have to stop that. We will stop that, because when I'm governor, we will make sure that people understand Public Act 226, and we are going to protect our farmland from this stuff, because people, businesses come in, they make promises that they never fulfill, and they tell people, we're going to build this for you, we're going to cut your taxes, we're going to drop energy costs. That is the biggest lie that we've been told and sold.
Thank you very much. Perry Johnson, wind and solar, they're popping up everywhere in Michigan.
I love these guys because everything they said is absolutely true. But I've got to tell you a little sidebar on this. You understand that Benson's husband gets paid a commission. Now, I want you to understand that they have no idea. What they're talking about is peanuts. It's literally over $1 billion for all of these data centers. And he is making $70 million on this. That's his commission, $70 million. Now, what has happened is that we have this graft going on. People get paid a bonus for having a windmill. It may be the stupidest, most idiotic thing I've ever heard in my life. They pay people to bury carbon. Now, they did this in Iowa, too. When I was campaigning for president, I found it was amazing because they were burying 1/1 millionth of the amount of carbon, and for that they were paying something like $7 billion. It was the most idiotic thing I ever heard in my life. You understand that we make these windmills? To make the windmills, which, by the way, a lot of them are made in China, to make these windmills, they pollute the air dramatically. It takes roughly 8 years of the windmill operating to ever compensate for the pollution that was put in. If I were ever to construct anything stupid, I don't know that I could come up with anything stupider than what they're doing right now. It is the all-time dumbest thing. It should be a Laurel and Hardy skit because it's so idiotic. And yet, we go along with it. I say no. And what I know we have to do is we've got to make sure he gets elected, because if he doesn't get elected, we're going to have a disaster. So I need everybody here to make sure that when it comes May, and I think that's what date is it that they vote? May 5th, that we vote for Jason, because if we don't do this, we are in trouble. I say right now, we get rid of the craziness that's going on with the Democrats. We make sure that we get into office. And by the way, let's eliminate that income tax.
Thank you very much. Okay, the time has come for our closing statements. I was going to say closing arguments, closing statements either way. I'm going to go in reverse, starting with Ralph Rebant. You have 2 minutes closing.
I'm going to go ahead up and stand by Perry so that it's, I'm just kidding. As I mentioned at the beginning, I am in this race because I've seen too much corruption. I've listened to politicians lie too much. They tell you one thing and they do the other. Friends, we need someone with moral courage to stand up for what's right. Whether it's against higher taxes, whether it's against abortion, whether it's against marijuana, we need someone who's going to tell people the truth. I'm running this race because I care more about the young people and their generation than I do this election. I want them to live the American dream that I have lived. I want them to do that in Michigan. I will do everything I can to make sure that happens. And in fact, friends, I've said this already. I am willing to die for our Constitution. I'm willing to die for truth. I'm willing to stand up and tell people, whether or not I even get elected or not, what the truth is. Because if we don't have somebody that's that courageous or that crazy, we will never change this state. I agree with Eric. We can't go in soft. We can't go in like we're, trying to negotiate with crazy people. But we do have to have the courage to stand for what is right. Our founders pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. I will promise you this tonight, that if you put me as your governor, you will not be disappointed. You're going to see that everything I promise will happen. because I will go against the legislature, even if it's Democratic House, Democratic Senate. I will go against that, and I will win. Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you. Eric Nesbitt.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for everybody for showing up. It's important to show up, and I think as next governor, all of us, I've showed up to all of these, and I look forward to continuing engaging folks across the state. Only one that's been to all 83 counties. I've continued to work to engage the grassroots and spread a message that Whitmer broke it. Benson would sure as hell make it worse. I'm going to fix it as your next governor. You look at it, how tough it is for families to make it here. They're being crushed. The cost of food, insurance, housing, and yet the average family here in Michigan makes $9,000 less than the average family nationally. And this is something where Governor Whitmer's made it tougher and tougher for families to actually raise their families here and retire here because of what she's been doing to make the state unaffordable. So we got to repeal the Green New Scam. We got to lower the cost of insurance by making it more competitive, holding companies accountable, repealing no fault. We got to go ahead and make sure for our job creators so we can make it easier for them to invest and grow here. I was down talking to a restaurant owner in Adrian a little while ago. We had a little meet and greet there, and this restaurant owner told me, this is my last day. We're closing down. 12 employees are losing their jobs. I'm moving back to Ohio. I survived COVID, but I just can't survive these new rules, these new taxes coming out of Lansing. I just can't make it in Michigan anymore. You don't hear about that in the mainstream news. You don't hear about it on the front page. But you hear that all the time as I travel around the state, that they just can't make it here in Michigan. I'm going to have her back. I'm going to have every hardworking family's back, our law enforcement's back, and I'm going to have President Trump's back. As your next governor, I'm going to make sure everybody can make it here in Michigan again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leonard.
So when we started, I told you that the challenges that Michigan faces right now are greater than any one person running for office. And I was going to spend the next 90 minutes attacking problems. That's what this campaign has been about. Let me give some straight talk to everybody in the room. 2 years ago, Democrats gave Republicans a playbook for what happens when you lose vision, you have no idea where you want to take the country, but instead your focus is hatred of one person. You lose. And frankly, as Republicans, we are not immune to that. If we wake up every single day and our focus is nothing but traveling this state and telling everybody how bad Gretchen Whitmer is and how bad Jocelyn Benson is, we lose. We better put forth a positive, bold, transparent vision every single day. That's what we've done here. Talking points are not going to cut it. It's one thing to say I'm Second Amendment. Who's going to look in the camera and who's going to put it in writing? It is time to repeal these red flag laws. It is time to repeal these safe storage laws. It is time to make Michigan a constitutional carry state. It's one thing to travel this state and say, I'm going to lower your energy costs and yell out Green New Scam. But who's willing to look at you and say, it is time to end the utility monopoly? Enough is enough. It is time to take on the Michigan Public Service Commission because, frankly, they no longer work for you. They work for two utilities in this state. Who is going to travel the state and say, I'm not afraid to take on big tech data centers. I don't care how much money they come and spend on me because, frankly, we cannot have them here driving up our energy costs. That's the type of bold vision that we are going to have if we're going to get our base out in November and we're going to win this election.
Thank you very much. Mr. Perry Johnson.
Well, thank you so much for coming. I've had a lot of fun, and I want to thank the Saginaw Republicans for holding this. I have spent my entire life bringing quality and efficiency to companies. That's basically all that I've been doing. I may have started out with nothing but a vision, but the vision came true. And I want to take that skill set and use that skill set so that Michigan can live a better life. It will start by eliminating the income tax. It will start by making sure that we can reform our property tax. And it will start by making sure that we audit every dime that we spend. But I want to make it very clear that if I were going to have surgery on a loved one, I probably, as much as I like Tom Leonard, wouldn't have Tom Leonard do it. If I were to go and I were going to have my teeth worked on, I probably am not going to have a neurosurgeon, as brilliant as he is. And frankly, I wouldn't have a neurosurgeon do my hair, because they develop a skill set. I have spent my entire life bringing quality and efficiency to companies. I am truly skilled at this. It took years to learn this. I want to take that skill set and bring it to Michigan so that we can end up eliminating that income tax. There was a time that people flocked to our state. We were a bastion of opportunity. We had people coming from all over the world here because for the first time in the history of humanity, a middle-class person could have a great job, a great life, could get a car, a house, and take care of his family. They were flocking here, and I want them flocking here again. I once again want everyone in America to look at Michigan as the greatest state in the union.
Thank you,
I say we do it again.
Thank you, sir.
47, 47 in every pocket.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Schuette.
All right, let's give it up one more time for our candidates. Thank you very much, gentlemen. All right, that is the conclusion of our events this evening. I do want to make sure I give a shout out to State Senator Kevin Daly, who missed earlier. Senator, we thank you for your service. And I have the results of the straw poll this evening. And your winner of your Saginaw County GOP gubernatorial straw poll with 46% of the vote is Perry Johnson. Congratulations, Perry. Let's give it up for Amy, Carl, Tom, Roy, the entire Saginaw GOP. Everybody have a great evening. Thank you for being here.